It was supposed to be the perfect debut, the glorious, sun-drenched showcase of a new era for the monarchy. The world watched, enchanted, as the new Duke and Duchess of Sussex arrived in Australia in the autumn of 2018, all easy smiles and visible affection. But behind the dazzling spectacle, behind the roaring crowds that eclipsed everything, a quiet, irreversible crack began to form deep within the foundation of the royal family. What we celebrated as a triumph was, in fact, the very beginning of the end. The chasm that would one day swallow the Sussexes whole, that would lead to Oprah, to Netflix, to a life in California, didn't start in a boardroom or during a tense family meeting. It started right there under the Australian sun. And today, we're going to uncover why. If you're fascinated by the real turning points in royal history, the moments where everything changed, you're in the right place. Welcome to Royal Report 24/7. Before we dive into the stunning details of this fateful tour, do us a huge favor. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It helps us more than you know. And sharing this story is the best way to spread the real narrative. Now, let's rewind to the moment the fairy tale began to curdle. Picture the scene. October 2018. Harry and Meghan touched down in Sydney, fresh off their fairy tale wedding. She is radiant, beaming, visibly pregnant with Archie. He is the proud, protective husband. The crowds are unprecedented. They are louder, bigger, more frenzied than anything the royal family had seen in a generation. The headlines are not just positive, they're euphoric. Megamania, they screamed. Every outfit she wore sold out in minutes. Every glance they shared was dissected as a symbol of modern love. On the surface, it was a public relations masterpiece. But inside the palace, behind the closed doors of the royal households, a very different story was beginning to be written. A story of alarm. Because what the public saw as unadulterated success, the institution saw as a dangerous, destabilizing anomaly. The first seed of division was planted in the sheer, overwhelming scale of their popularity. It wasn't just that they were popular. It was that their popularity completely and utterly overshadowed the tour's official purpose and its official hosts. This was not the Harry and Meghan show in the palace's view. This was a tour representing the Queen, the Commonwealth, the Crown. Yet, the global media narrative swiftly became a singular obsession with the Sussexes. For the first time, a supporting royal had not just stolen the scene, but had commandeered the entire production. And this created an immediate, unspoken tension with the very heart of the monarchy's future, the Cambridges. Because just 4 years earlier, William and Kate had undertaken their own hugely successful tour of Australia with a baby Prince George. It was a sensation. But the 2018 frenzy made 2014 look, in the cold light of palace analytics, like a warm-up act. The metrics were undeniable. The crowds were bigger. The social media engagement was astronomical. The media coverage was wall-to-wall. In the ruthlessly hierarchical world of the monarchy, where birth order is destiny, this was a seismic shock to the system. It created an unconscious and then very conscious competition. The Fab Four unity, showcased just months earlier at Royal Ascot, now had a fault line running straight through it, measured in decibels and column inches. Then came the style, not just of fashion, but of operation. Meghan was a whirlwind. She worked through morning sickness. She hugged crowds, broke protocol with warmth, gave impassioned, off-the-cuff speeches. She was a dynamic, American-style celebrity royal, operating at a pace and with an emotional transparency that the centuries-old institution simply wasn't built to process. Her team, new and fiercely loyal to her, operated with a digital-age urgency that clashed with the palace's traditionally slow, deliberate, and cautious machinery. Reports began to trickle back to London, not just of success, but of chaos, of aides scrambling, of schedules being fluid, of a rock star atmosphere that felt alien to the buttoned-up world of royal tours. To Harry and Meghan, they were being modern, accessible, and human. To the old guard at the palace, it looked like a lack of discipline. It looked like a brand operating outside of the corporate structure. And in a family business, that is the ultimate sin. But the most toxic seed sown in Australia was one of perception and narrative. Harry, watching the adoration wash over his wife, reportedly felt a profound, dual revelation. First, immense pride and vindication. Here was the woman the British tabloids had been hounding, being worshipped by tens of thousands. It proved his worldview right, that the press was malicious and that the public loved the real Meghan. But second, and more dangerously, he saw a glimpse of an alternate future. He saw that their brand, Harry and Meghan, had a standalone, global power that perhaps didn't need the cumbersome architecture of the firm to be successful. The Australian tour was proof of concept. It was the first concrete evidence that they could be a massively popular, world-famous, force-for-good duo entirely on their own terms. This revelation was intoxicating, and it was terrifying for the institution, because it meant that their most magnetic asset had just realized they might not need the family business after all. Meanwhile, from the perspective of William and the palace's senior courtiers, a chilling counter-narrative was forming. This wasn't just a successful tour, it was a runaway train. The focus on Meghan's wardrobe was overshadowing their charitable messaging. The megamania was seen as fleeting celebrity, not enduring royal duty. There were whispers, later reported by insiders, of concerns that it was too much too soon, that this explosive popularity was unsustainable and would inevitably lead to a crash that would damage the monarchy. The very thing that made them a global sensation, their modern, emotive, media-savvy approach, was viewed internally as a liability. It was a fundamental clash of vision. The Sussexes saw the future. The institution saw a threat to tradition. And so, as the plane left Australian airspace, two irrevocable conclusions had been drawn in two different camps. Harry and Meghan flew home believing they had just delivered the greatest royal tour in modern history, that they had revitalized the monarchy with their fresh energy, and that they deserved not just praise, but the autonomy to continue in this mold. The palace and the Cambridges, however, saw a need for recalibration, for pulling back, for integrating this new energy into the existing hierarchy without letting it dominate. The Sussexes felt restrained. The institution felt disobeyed. The crack from Australia became a rift. Every disagreement that followed, over Frogmore Cottage, over security, over their new independent charitable foundation, was filtered through this new, painful lens of misunderstanding and resentment born in the Southern Hemisphere. The tour didn't create the problems. It revealed the incompatible visions for the future that had been papered over by the wedding's joy. It was the catalyst that turned differences into divisions. It showed Harry a door he never knew existed, and in doing so, made the confines of the palace walls feel less like duty and more like a cage. That Australian sunshine didn't just light up their smiles. It cast the first, long shadow of the rift to come. And as we now know, that shadow would eventually stretch across an ocean. If you found this deep dive into the real royal breaking point compelling, please help our channel grow. We rely on you. So, if you haven't already, subscribe to Royal Report 24/7. Tap that like button and share this video with anyone who wants to understand the real story behind the headlines. The past explains the present, and we'll be here to make those connections for you. Thanks for watching.